to draw with. Okay, so let's talk about the muscle tissue types, and there are three broad categories. Remember all the way back to chapter 4 with histology. So there are three main types of muscle tissue. So you have skeletal muscle tissue, you have cardiac muscle tissue. Again, anything with cardia refers to the heart of something. And so cardiac muscle tissue, that's exclusive to your heart. And then you have smooth muscle tissue. And smooth muscle tissue is pretty much everything that's not skeletal muscle tissue and everything that's not cardiac muscle tissue. So things like the muscles that line your blood vessels or the muscles inside your internal organs, those are smooth muscle tissue. Again, cardiac has its own special part, and then skeletal muscle tissue. So this is what we're pretty much going to focus on for chapter 10 and exam 2, because again, the next chapter is talking about the pretty much just about your skeletal muscle tissue. Next semester, if you're continuing on to PHYL 142, we'll talk more about cardiac muscle tissue. So don't worry too much. Just know pretty much as the muscle tissue chapter and histology chapter tells you. But don't go too much in detail for cardiac and smooth, because we get to that later on in the year. All right, so here are muscle cells. Now think about, this is a very useful root word. Myo refers to muscle. So a lot of the terms that are medical terms that relate to muscle. Yes, you have an exam October 30th. So there's an exam on October 30th, so 2 weeks out. Yep. So there's an exam. So exam 2, yep, it's on October 30th. So exam 2 is coming up on October 30th, 2 weeks out. So on exam 2, you have to so focus on skeletal muscle for exam 2. Now, myo is a useful prefix referring to muscle. So myocytes. So remember, cyte is that other root word meaning cell. So a myocyte is literally muscle cell. But the things that you might have heard things like myocyte, muscle cells, muscle fibers, myofibers, they're all referring to the same thing. So a myocyte is a muscle cell, muscle fiber, myofiber. Different articles might refer to that. I might use them interchangeably. But when you hear any of these terms, we're pretty much talking about an individual, fully developed muscle cell. And yeah, so myofiber it's not the same as myofibril. So the thing is that the thing about this is you have the same prefix and root words and things that look alike, but actually we're kind of getting to that point where your vocabulary of anatomy and physiology is so big that some terms start to look similar. And again, this is why spelling counts, and you have to know how these are spelled. Otherwise, you might get confused if you see both myofiber and myofibril in your answers. And don't be scared. Again, thing is that this is why I'm trying to warn you ahead of time that you have to start. And one thing I would do, even while you're studying muscle tissue, is start, if you're not in the lab, start memorizing the anatomy. Oh, that's one thing. I also uploaded to Laulima. So again, I do have a warning there. This is only for your studying. Do not upload those images from Pearson anywhere else, especially anything that's public or for profit, because Pearson is notoriously litigious, and I can't take any responsibility if you distribute it. Those files are only for you to study. So again, it's hard to study cram all 600, 700, 800 muscles in your mind the day before the exam. So do it one at a time and just go with the big muscles first, the superficial muscles. But the thing is that I will kind of focus on certain muscle groups and muscles when I talk about in maybe 2-3 lectures from now. So I do kind of narrow down the list, and I don't expect you to know all 600, 800 muscles in the body. But yeah, basically I will kind of have I'll highlight certain muscles when I'm talking about the muscle skeletal anatomy. All right, so then back to muscle cells. So again, we have myofibers, which are not the same as myofibrils. So myofiber refers to, again, it's synonymous, and just another term for a muscle cell. And then muscle fibers and myofibers are typically referring to skeletal muscle. But again, that's what this chapter is mostly about. But the myofibril, these are proteins. Remember, there's a protein level and then there's the cell level. Proteins are smaller than cells. So then myofibrils, you have a bunch of myofibrils that can be contained within one myofiber, which is aka a skeletal muscle cell.